advancing them. Now, I need to heal his MP 4 times. And one of the big things with speedrunners that they start to pride themselves on is how quickly they can menu. Because you can spend so much time in the menus. And as you can see, my menuing is very sloppy. Like, I'm a little embarrassed about how sloppy my menuing is, but I'll get over that. 4 tinctures. Now,
I don't want to distract you. Basically, just like really elaborate cheat codes that somehow.
think less cheat codes and more.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. I'm here to learn.
Yeah, it's more executing arbitrary code.
Okay.
So I'm going to have actually a moment when the glitch is executing that I can explain exactly what's going on.
Okay. And this is definitely not designer intended.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm casting Muddle on her. I have it go off while the animation is going. And the game's not broken.
Those numbers.
The game doesn't know what's going on right now. So what happened is... Yes, that's actually attached to my cursor.
Wow.
So strange things are happening. While that continues to happen, what's going on is Sketch needs to draw a sprite on the screen. And it needs to draw a sprite, and it says, okay, but I need to draw it 1 tile lower than it is normally, because Realm is a short character. So to be in the proper position related to her, I'm going to subtract 1. It subtracts 1 from the height of the sprite it's going to draw before it has the height of the sprite. So it goes from 0 to -1, which in hexadecimal becomes 256. So it's now taking memory from far away from the point it's supposed to, and that's what's causing all of these problems, is that it's executing code during a thing that was never supposed to happen. It's taking information from the top character's magic menu instead of the enemy sprite. That's just happens to be how this game was programmed, and it causes really weird things to happen.
So was this discovered by someone going into the code, or just a lot of trial and error?
So it was originally a lot of trial and error, and then and people got to the point where they understood that it was this particular magic spell that was the catalyst for it, and then people went on from there, and someone decompiled the code after that point, and then figured it out.
So what are you doing now? Are you actually...
I'm just getting away from the battle.
Okay.
So I have to save and reload the game here, because according to the person whose notes that I'm using, which I'll actually show you a screenshot of their notes in a moment, says if you don't, the game's going to flip out. I don't know what that means.
I want to know.
But now's not the time to find out. So just basic save and reset. I think it has something to do with the fact that I destabilized the game, and now, you know, rebooting just like a regular computer. Did you try turning it off and turning it back on again?
Blow in the cartridge.
Exactly. So now I'm going to do a little bit of setup for the next part of the glitch. And this involves me changing some characters around and really doing things that the game did not intend. So I am going to get Dow, who is there? Sure, we'll do that. Dow, Savin, and Kyan. Getting these 3 guys. And I'm now going to equip them. There we go. A Moogle Charm is an accessory like a ring. It should not be equipped as a hat. I'm just going to throw that out there. That's probably wrong. Nor should it be equipped on a hat on him. And now with this guy, I need to go sell a few of those items that are being equipped ahead of that Moogle Charm and free up some space. And this is because the Moogle Charm has the effect of, if you have it equipped on one of the people in your party, and you can't get into a battle. You just avoid all random encounters.
So to be clear, this was an item that you had in your inventory prior to that encounter.
No.
But it's just, okay. Gotcha.
The encounter put in lots and lots of things in very weird places. Like, I did not have 85 air lancets.
Oh, so it filled your inventory. That's what
Yeah.
you had said earlier.
Right.
Okay.
Or 0 smoke bombs. And I'm trying to find the Assuras. When I did it earlier, I had a %4 item of some of the items. Let's see if that was good. No, of course not. So, when I say that this glitch is manipulatable, we have a general understanding of how to manipulate it, but that doesn't mean that it's always right. There are still parts of this that we don't understand, like why it happened to give me 0 tempests that I now need. And now I have 55. Like, why that happens, when in... I've got lots of...
And the fact that it's saying randomly cast wind slash.
That's just a property of the item
gotcha,
itself.
Gotcha.
But in there, I apparently had about 128 of those swords. But the last time I did the glitch about 10 minutes ago, I didn't.
Yeah, it worked.
And I don't know why.
Right hand Moogle charm.
So there we go. Now I've got the Moogle Charm equipped on these 3 characters. I'm now going to leave them back in this airship. Wonderful life philosophy set, so thank you. Locke, Terra, and Realm. And now I'm going to go get into a very specific battle. I also have to park my airship in a very specific tile on the map. Because if I don't, it won't be where I need it to be, and that would be a problem. So, in this little 2 by 2 section of forest, there is a rare chance for an encounter with an enemy called the Integer. And that's what I need to find. But what I'm going to find probably for a little while is bunnies and lettuce leaves. And we're going to run for them.
So is this an intended enemy, or is this
Yes, the Integer is an intended enemy. It's on this island. You have the ability to get to this island, but most people probably wouldn't at this point in the game, because there's really no reason to. There's literally nothing here. But this enemy, the Integer, who's going to appear and be invisible. Just because that's Integer's sort of gimmick. Is that they're invisible.
I always saw bunny and lettuce as like a very sinister looking flower.
Oh, could be. Oh, that is terrifying, isn't it?
like a flower with a whole red center.
Okay, I can buy that.
For the sake of entertainment, I threw that out there.
Thank you. This is also, again, one of those things that happens in speedruns when you're waiting for the right battle to appear. Okay. First thing I need to do is I need to
Very
block. I have in the past, just earlier today, imped the Integer instead. It doesn't work if you do that. And then I need to cure him of his imp status. Because he doesn't like being an imp. And these are some of the same steps that I was taking before, so I'm manipulating some of the same memory, but I'm doing it slightly differently. I'm making him an imp again, and he's going to not stay as an imp. And the planning for this run comes down to the fact that an hour and a half in game time, I went through and found, or bought 3 green cherries, because that's exactly the number I needed. Like while I was in the middle of shopping for something else, like that's when I found, it's planned out to that level of detail. To the level of buy these items, sell these items. And now we're going to sketch. And once again, things are going to go poorly. And now the battle has frozen, but the menu has not. I don't know why. But what I'm going to try to do, and also, I don't know why I have shoes in my left hand. Or a noise blaster in my right hand. But what I'm going to try to put in my right hand is goggles, which if I had done this properly, it should be somewhere down here.
They were like the last item group.
Ah, there it is. I have -4. Now I have -3 goggles. But apparently I can equip them. So what's happening right now is the battle will end in 2 minutes from the moment that I did the sketch glitch. So I've got nothing else to do except, move my inventory around and figure out a few things. I'm gonna need this X potion up at the top of my thing. I need those echo streams for tricks later in the game. So when I have downtime like this as a speedrunner, I utilize that time. I organize my inventory so that later it's going to be much easier to get what I need. The other thing I need is flame shields. Now, I'm doing this for the sake of realism. Oh, hey, my party turned to stone. I don't know why.
One of them got silenced.
And so, now, if anyone's played Final Fantasy III or Final Fantasy VI, you'll know that this is not where I'm supposed to be. So, I'm going to leave this dungeon because I don't want to deal with it. And the entire map is different. While I was in that battle, according to the storyline, the entire world got destroyed. I missed it.
Game over, man.
Yeah. So I'm going to go here, and just to show that I can, I'm not going to go through the entireties of the final battles or anything, but I'm going to head to the final dungeon. We're going in. So the story is that you're supposed to take General Cells and the White Cape there, and you're supposed to go around and collect the rest of your party after the world's been destroyed and you've been scattered to the four winds. Why bother? They just came with me.
Sarah's just now called Kutan now?
Yeah, she's now called Kutan.
But
Because
she did
I
eventually
never-
join your party.
She
As
never
Kutan.
officially joined my party,
Okay.
and I never got the chance to rename her. So she looks like General Cells, but she's actually a Moogle with very low stats.
It's a suit.
Right.
Talk about identity issues.
Right. The actual reason for that is during the famed opera scene during the game says, "Oh, I need to replace this character with a very specific sprite," and then it replaces it back with Cell's sprite, not with a sprite that was used before. So these three guys have Moogle charms, so that I can just wander through. She's going to stay on the airship because she's useless. And now I'm going to jump down into the final dungeon of the game, with the ability to run around completely unmolested by any monsters. Because I've got Moogle charms equipped on half my party. So in the course, when this glitch was originally found, see, just wandering around, no one's going to bother me. Just doesn't matter. So that's the power of the sketch glitch. It allows me to skip, I'd say, 50 to 60% of the game. I don't want to deal with it. I'm just going to skip it.
So for scope purposes, you're talking about, what's the fastest speed run right now for any percent?
The current any % world record is about 3 hours and 43 minutes.
Coming down from what, like 20, 30-ish?
No,
A normal playthrough?
a normal playthrough is 20 to 25 hours, I would guess. And the record before that was somewhere around 5 or 6 hours before the sketch glitch was introduced. That was about 2 years ago when I started following it. Now, I mentioned that there's a lot of social constructs that go along with this. So one of the main things is these are the notes from a Google Doc that the world record holder has shared with the entire world. Anyone can go look at it. I just didn't have access to a printer, so I wrote it down on my handy-dandy little notebook. Thank you. I found that at a meeting the other day. So this glitch is not only understood as a solitary effort. This is something that the LCC, who's the current world record holder, shares his notes. And actually, I want to show at the very top of his notes, it says, based on Essentia's routed notes with optimizations and input from the LCC, Katamari, and all of these people. So this was a collaborative effort to come through and create this document for people who want to learn how to speedrun the game to have next to them to help them. Also, during most speedruns of a game of this length, the LCC probably has this note file open next to him so that he doesn't have to memorize, that order of operations and instructions for the specific sketch glitch. So for me, the community aspect of this is, I think, the most interesting. And this glitch on its own has so fundamentally changed the speedrunning community that there are now multiple categories of speedrunning. So these are all the North American versions because this glitch doesn't work in the Japanese version of the game, but other glitches do. So in the North American any% that uses the sketch glitch, we have 343. Then we have any% no sketch glitch. Beginning to end as quickly as you can, you just don't use that one particular glitch. Well, then you have a category down here where people who are like, well, I like the sketch glitch, I like the fact that I get all those items. All those items are really useful. But I'm not going to use it to warp to the end of the game, because that's a little too much. And then you have people who do it absolutely glitchless, who are like, I don't want to use Joker Doom, I don't want to walk through anybody, I don't want to use the sketch glitch, none of that. I'm going to do this as a purist. So the community has come together and they've determined collectively what these different categories should be and what should and shouldn't be allowed in these different runs. And this community is based around a few different places. So the first place I found it was Twitch TV. And this is not for speedrunners. This is for people streaming video games in general. But then you have a service called Speedruns Live that comes around, and they post videos of speedrunners. So if you go to Speedruns Live, you'll find speedrunners who are streaming on Twitch, but you won't find anything else. So if you're searching for Final Fantasy VI on Speedruns Live, you'll find speedrunners doing it, but you won't find someone who's just playing it and broadcasting it to their friends. And then finally, I think the most important community aspect of speedrunning and speedrunning Final Fantasy VI in particular is an organization called Games Done Quick. This is a group of speedrunners who have come together and they've decided, I want to take our speedrunning, I want to take our practice and take it beyond games, and take it beyond, what we do, beyond just me sitting there streaming and for my followers. So Games Done Quick's mission statement is that it is a series of charity video game marathons. They feature high-level play of speedrunners raising money for charity. Games Done Quick has teamed up with several charities in the 5 years that it's been going on, mostly Doctors Without Borders and Prevent Cancer Foundation. The most recent Awesome Games Done Quick, which was held this year, raised over $1.5 million for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. So you've got this community coming around and saying, we're not only going to understand this game better, we're going to start doing things for other people. We're going to take it out of ourselves and do more. And then these Game Done Quick marathons look like this, where you've got two people playing the game, and yes, you can actually play Final Fantasy VI co-op. You've got Essentia and Coexel who are playing the game, but then during the marathon, you have the other big runners in the community who are there, so Mr. MB and Brosentia, who's the brother to Essentia, giving commentary throughout the entire game. So the explanations I did as I was going through the different glitches were explanations that they were giving so the two runners could focus on executing properly. So this brings me into another point about competition and collaboration. So I took this image from a fairly recent Twitch TV stream of the world record holder, the LCC. So he decided that he hates the character Sabin. Don't know why, just hates him, doesn't want to use him. So he's trying to figure out how he can get through a certain section of the game without using that character. And he's streaming this on Twitch TV. And he's failing time and again. I watched about 34 minutes, he reset and restarted a dozen times. So the number of times I had to reset for the Joker Doom, he did that over and over and over again. That's not the interesting part. The interesting part is that the people who were in his chat channel were people that were listed on the, let's go back. For some of these people. Some of the people who were going for that record from the LCC were in his chat channel saying, well, did you try this? Well, what about if you heal the character instead of killing them there? So these competitors are working together with the people who they are directly competing with. And that's something I haven't seen anywhere else. So I want to leave you with the thought of speedrunning as a communal well play. So we can take the concept of well play and move it beyond the bounds of what the designer of the game intended. So clearly, all of the things that I've given examples of today were the game not being played as the designer intended. But as a community, these speedrunners have determined the rules, parameters, best practices for their well play, and they help each other learn and improve upon their well play. So I want to leave us with a question. How do we understand this form of competition and collaboration together? Thank you. I think we've got a few minutes for questions, if people have them.
Has the sketch glitch, now that it's been published in other formats on PSP, all that other stuff, as FF6, has it been fixed?
So it was actually fixed between the first release in the US on the Super Nintendo and the second release in the US. So if you were to go out and buy a Final Fantasy III cartridge, you don't know which version you had until you try the glitch. Yeah.
So is the sketch, like, in that version, assuming you have the wrong version, every time you use sketch, stuff goes crazy?
Not every time. If sketch hits, it's fine. It's when sketch misses that is the problem. And sometimes if the memory hasn't, like if it's early in the battle and none of the memory or the RAM has been manipulated, nothing happens. But depending on what you've done before you use sketch,